Hello, everybody. Welcome. You can see Willpower there. Still got the music going. I'll bring that down gradually this time. We're getting the professionalism up on these streams. Yeah, Willpower was, and this is not a slight on the race, but I think Willpower maybe was the most entertaining thing about this Iowa race today. Let me get the chat up so I can see it because I couldn't see it. Already got 95 people in here. We are early technically because the race didn't run as long as it did yesterday. Probably because we didn't have a catch fence crash this time around. Hi, it's your... oh, wait, I shut the song off. There I am. Hi, everybody. David Land here, as usual, as you would imagine, because my name is on the channel. Also got Kyle Cuthbertson, Racing Nation TV. You've probably already subscribed to him, but I'm going to let him shill his stuff and talk a little bit about the race to get us started.
What's up, guys? Awesome to be here, and what a good race. The last 2 days have been amazing. Honestly, the last 4 IndyCar races have just been amazing. What a year it's been for IndyCar racing, and when it's actually happening, right? Not as much to talk about today, but yeah, what an awesome weekend.
Well, that's what I was going to say about this weekend, kind of in general. I think, and I'm not a big fan of doubleheaders as a rule, but I felt like Iowa is like the perfect track to have a doubleheader at. I thought this weekend was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I didn't think the racing product really suffered from race 1 to race 2. A lot of times that's what happens with doubleheaders is everybody figures it out. And while, yes, Joseph Newgarden led over 200 laps, I thought this was a very entertaining race. People aren't going to think it was an entertaining race because the last 50 laps were kind of boring. But for the most part, I thought it was entertaining. I don't know. Did you think it was entertaining, Kyle, or did you think it was crap? Because I know there's going to be some people who say it was not as exciting as yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining, but I do understand if you're not someone who was up with the strategy the entire race and paying attention to when people pit and what the lap times and speeds were during the pit stops. I feel like definitely I can see where people think this was boring if you weren't paying close attention to the pit stops. It's funny you say that because I actually thought Road America was also a perfect doubleheader, and I'm thinking about it like if we kept doing these, and I'm like, okay, well every race can't be a doubleheader, but I feel like Iowa for sure is one that they should look at and maybe keep it this way. Well, this was really cool. And another thing too to think about that, not just this being a doubleheader, but I think the Friday night IndyCar at Iowa was awesome. I think Friday night IndyCar race, that was awesome. I bet
the TV ratings are going to be horrible for this weekend, though. I bet they will be horrible. They might have gotten saved this tonight because some of the NASCAR fans might have been enticed by the catch fence crash yesterday. I hate that I have to point that out as something that would have happened, but it's a thing that happens. You see it in the TV ratings. I like the Iowa doubleheader because it's a short track and it has that kind of feeling of like, multiple nights of racing. I mean, they tried this a while ago, not a doubleheader, but do you remember when they did heat races?
Yep, Graham Rahal won a heat race.
Yeah, so there you go.
It's like a little asterisk of when he won a race in between 08 and 15.
So yeah, so that's kind of a, they've tried to do stuff like this before at Iowa, and I think just kind of taking the plunge and doing a 2-race deal, because I think usually this is like 300 laps, right? It's usually a slightly longer race.
No, I actually think it was always 250.
I thought they moved it up to 300. I know the chat will tell us here in a second.
It might have been 300. They might have taken 50 miles.
I think it started as a 250 because it's not miles. Mm-hmm. Remember, that's the other thing.
True.
It's shorter than a mile, so it was 250 laps when they started, and I think all within like the first couple of years that they started running this race, they turned it into a 300 lap race to try to get it like a little bit longer, kind of more comparable to like Milwaukee or something. Of course, they don't run Milwaukee anymore, so that's a bad comparison, but it was apt like in 2011 when they ran at Milwaukee. Yeah. But having essentially a 500 lap event, split between 2 days, I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't, see, Everybody's saying it was 300 in the chat there. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I would like them to continue that this year or next year. This year, next year. It's all running together now. It's been a long year, folks, and it's just getting started. We
Yeah.
were talking about that off air about the next like 4 or 5 weeks. Holy smokes!
Oh my God.
Woo! I'm not gonna sleep in my own bed for about 5 weeks. I hope you guys appreciate the content that's about to be coming because.
See, I get lucky. I get lucky because there's a bit of races that happen at Mid Ohio coming up, so I actually do get to stay home. But Mr. Land over here, oh boy,
It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough. Venom129 says, has your opinion of Ericsson been? I think he's been pretty consistent with his pace last year. I'd be interested to see later on in the season if he comes on, because he did come on pretty strong at the end of the season with Schmidt, and I do wonder what his pace is going to be like at the Indy 500, because if we remember, he was the fastest Schmidt car there by a pretty long way, and Ganassi seems to have the hot ticket setup wise right now. They're probably going to be pretty fast at Indy, so that would be the race that I would kind of peg for a Marcus Ericsson coming out party if it does happen. A lot of people talking about Conor Daly's strategy. I would like someone to explain that to me myself, because what an epic! I mean, that was when you make Pato O'Ward's pit issue look less bad.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big
Well, what I don't get is when that yellow hit, when that yellow hit and he was a lap down, right? When he got caught a lap down, it was when Ray Hall made up all the spots, right?
No, Conor wasn't a lap down though, right?
Yeah,
no,
he did.
You're right.
You're
right, because
he was the first car a lap down.
Because he was on the Askew Rossi strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he got his lap back somehow, and then on the final when everyone made their third pit stop, Daly actually pit a couple like 7 laps earlier than the rest of the guys, and that actually helped him out a ton. But because on that last yellow, the Hunter Ray yellow on lap 180, fourth or third. That's how he ended up in third. But what that did is he was about 14 laps. He pitted about 14 laps before the leaders. So those 14 laps is what made the difference in the fuel mileage. And so when he pit, they didn't, instead of risking stretching it, they wanted to make sure they finished the race and not go to, because the thing is, if they pit when they did, then they come out on fresh tires and they might be able to make more spots up, or they sit there and stretch it and just, I think maybe they should have probably stretched it.
But why wouldn't they have pitted like right on the? Because when Askew and Rossi and Kanan and all those guys that were kind of like, ended up finishing the race like 6 through 10, when they all came in, why didn't Conor pit? Like that's the thing that I don't understand, is why didn't he? The last yellow. Why didn't he pit
with them?
That's That's the worst. Like, why? Because no one else needed to pit, and when Daly pitted, I was like, oh wow, oh crap, all of the leaders are going to have to pit, but that's not what happened. So that's just, that's a big brain fart from the strategist. I don't really know how else, and really, I think the story was freaking. Was the pit lane, wasn't it? I mean, that seemed like where all the action kind of happened.
That was the big thing of tonight, was the like I said, this race wasn't actually too entertaining if you weren't invested in the strategies, because I was sitting here with a notepad trying to make sure I remembered when everybody pit and what it could do, and the way the yellows flew, kind of like last night, but except for Newgarden got it right. The strategy of the pit lane was really the biggest factor.
Venom says another ex-F1 guy not named Alonso wins the 500. Yeah, that was kind of funny how how the first year where Alonso tried it. Sato won, and obviously he missed last year, so it didn't really count. But if another like F1 guy, a former F1 guy,
remember that same year, another ex-F1 driver, Max Chilton, almost won it in that same car that Ericsson's in.
That's a good point. That's a good point, but the race is totally different,
of course,
now than it was in like, and it's going to be. And this is the thing. I've heard a few people say that the 500 this year is going to be like cooler because it's cooler in Indianapolis in August. I don't think so, folks. I think it's going to be a very hot Indy 500, and hot Indy 500s generally mean the field's going to get spread out.
It's either going to be way hotter or it's going to be the same. We're probably going to see another 2018.
But the same, 2018, that was the hottest Indy 500 on record. So that doesn't mean it's going to be cool enough to really generate a lot of grip or a lot of downforce. So it's going to be a race where there's going to be a lot of dominance. Nate says Carlin is officially IndyCar's bruh moment. Well, definitely, I would almost say definitely today, but then again, Ryan Hunter-Reay managed to crash in the same spot coming out of the pits in 2 successive races.
Not as bad as yesterday, but I would still say Andrade Autosport right now is the bro moment.
But Rossi's in the top 10 in points all of a sudden.
Today's strategy was the only way. I mean, because I even said it on Twitter. I mean, is it too early to be worried about Rossi? Because if you watch him at Iowa last year and how impressive he was, like he's always super impressive in the guy on ovals, but to see him this weekend, he's like it's not like we're watching that same guy, you know.
Get the sunscreen. Do you guys realize how far my nose sticks out into like the UV rays? Like just look at this schnoz right here. Like the sun just hits this thing and it burns it. Also, I got a really bright light there, so it's gonna make my nose look red. Deal with it. I'll try during the month of August, to keep my schnoz nice and pale for all of you guys, but no guarantees. I'm gonna be, hopefully, fingers crossed, gonna be in the sun a lot during the month of August.
Fingers crossed.
I'll try to keep from like getting too crispy for you guys.
Yeah, everyone in the chat talking about Marco is the meme, but Marco finished I believe 10th tonight. Like Marco got himself a top 10.
It's been
he passed
10
TK on the last lap.
It's been 10. Actually, tonight. It's been 11 races at just Iowa alone since Marco won his last race. Just at Iowa. It's not 10 years though yet, because I was gonna make that tweet that it was his 10-year anniversary of winning his last race. It's technically not true, even though there's been now 11 races at Iowa. Next year,
we're not there yet,
is the 10-year anniversary of Marco's last win. Can you? Wow, 2011 was almost 10 years ago.
Oh,
ooh. Also, late August is about the same weather as Memorial Day. Well, there you go. And that's true. I think, but I would wager it's going to be hot. It's the problem with August, especially in Indianapolis, is that there's going to be less rain. So it's going to be hot. It's going to be dry, and I don't know what that's going to mean for the Steve is saying it's only been 10 races. Maybe I was wrong. I don't know. Maybe I miscounted. But so it's probably going to be less humid, hopefully. If it's a dry heat and it's like 100 degrees, that'll be way less bad than if it's, freaking humid and like 100 degrees. So humidity is what gets you. At least it's what gets me. When my hair starts curling, that's when I know I'm going to be in for a rough day. 10 years since Trevor Bayne won the Daytona 500. Yeah.
Oof.
Coming up on that anniversary as well. Ban closed down in Indiana. No fans at Indy. Blue Jays banned from playing in Canada. My guess would, I think I said this. I don't know if I even said this on air last night. It might have been a conversation offline, but I'll say it here because I think Indy will happen with fans. Uh, I've spoken to some people with knowledge of the situation, and I'm pretty confident of it. And I would also say the way NBC was talking about it, the fact that Lee Diffie literally just came out and said, "Oh, Roger Penske, he promised," that makes me say, okay, probably going to have fans. Probably going to have fans. But now, will they have fans for practice? Will they have fans for qualifying? All you had to do was all Roger promised was for the race. So that's the thing that we don't know. And I literally don't know. Like, I've literally contacted IMS. I know I'm not the only one who's done that. About media access. And they were nice enough to respond, and they don't know yet. So if that tells you something about where they are in their process, I don't know.
Even the tickets, they're mailing the tickets the first week of August, I believe. And I need to get on contacting them, because if we're out in August, my tickets get mailed to my house, and I'm not there. How the heck am I gonna get my tickets? So yeah, things are happening that are just like last minute.
Mid Ohio is happening with fans behind the wheel, and I think you've asked a couple times if I'm going. Yes, the current plan is to go to Mid Ohio, but it's 2020, and I cannot confirm anything until it actually happens. But yeah. Oh, Oz Kitty Boy, that's not even my best Lee Diffie impression.
Oh.
That's not even my best one. Maybe if we get a couple more super chats, I'll do it. But I've got one that I think is pretty good. We'll see. Yeah, people are talking about IRP. Yeah, IRP, Indianapolis Raceway Park, O'Reilly Raceway Park, Lucas Oil Raceway, whatever you want to call it. Not in or not in Marion County, and that's where the problem's going to be. Now, the one thing about Marion County, and we should be talking about Iowa, but we're talking about the Indy 500, because of course we are.
We'll get to Iowa. There's still stuff to talk about Iowa.
Yes. But the thing is that I believe that the economic impact of the Indy 500, even with only 100,000 fans, you have to realize that there's also all the media that comes into town. There's also all the press that comes into town, meaning the press generated about Indianapolis, not just necessarily bodies coming in and supporting the restaurants, but all the teams, the drivers, all of that stuff generates a lot of revenue for Indianapolis. And I would just think that if Indy loses its biggest sporting event of the year, and then you start thinking about, well, what if the Colts games don't have fans, you know? So, I mean, I think the heat's going to be on them, the politicians, to put this on, make sure it happens. But I don't know. Today was kind of like a replacement Memorial Day in terms of racing. Decent racing all day. Yeah.
It's been like that for like 4 weeks now. It's pretty wild. We usually get that like one day of the year where every series is happening, and it's like, oh, but like the last 4 weeks have just been like there's a race going on at all times of the day, and it's freaking awesome.
It's awesome, but it's also tiring because it's like you have to keep the TV on all day.
They talk leave. About I've heard a lot of about race hangovers, and man, it's right. It's true. It's true. When Monday comes and you've watched like 10 different races and like 4 or 5 a day during a weekend, Monday is like, man, Monday is the day to just sleep all day long.
We got a couple super chats coming in, but one of them's anti-Diffie. Arian says he can't stand Diffie. He's such a Dixon homer. Yeah, he does like his boys from down under. I know that obviously Dixon's technically a New Zealander, but he was born in Australia.
PT does the same thing for Graham.
PT does the same thing for Santino. My God. Once you hear PT shilling for Santino, you never unhear it. It's like hearing every time somebody gets close, the whoa! You can never unhear it. Venom
He's the guy that invented Santucci, so give him that.
He did make that contribute big contribution to the world. Venom says, did you see them expand doing the schedule Do they have a race cap like F1? Do you see them
You
expand?
read that wrong.
Do you see them expand? Do it. Boy, that's tough to read.
Do you see them expand the schedule, or
Oh,
do they have a race cap like F1,
I don't think they
or
have a
like?
I don't think they have a race cap per se. I know they have some agreements with like sponsors to have a minimum number of races and a
Mhm.
minimum number of cars, but I would imagine that this year there's probably some sort of like get out of jail clause. Um, so I wouldn't expect any races to get added to the schedule IndyCar wise. I am excited about the F1 schedule, which looks like it's going to be all the European tracks that everybody likes and none of the crap tilt domes in the middle of the desert that nobody likes.
And Mugello, and we get
I
Mugello.
know, that's what I'm saying, is like all the European circuits, like they're going to race in Italy like 3 or 4 times. I mean, they're going to go back to Hockenheim, it looks like. Um, I, I mean, it's going to be a pretty awesome F1 season in terms of a
I mean,
track
maybe
selection perspective.
just in case this is what they're asking, do you see them expanding the schedule like in the future?
I hope. I would hope.
Because I heard
Uh,
Roger say that he liked the amount of races they have now, like 17,
I'd like
and
to see it.
he wants to keep it that way. But
I'd
what
like
would
to
you
see
like to see?
20. I'd like to see 20. I think you could add 3. I think if you added one street circuit, one super speedway, and one short oval, I think you'd have a really balanced schedule. Um, 20 events. That's what I'd like to see. Or
Got to
maybe not
bring in
even a
more
street.
money. Got to bring in more money so we can run more races.
Don't shoot the messenger. Hey, more races are more money. It's more ticket revenue, and technically, I guess it could be more TV revenue if you're getting paid based on the race.
You'd hope so.
Diffie is such a Dixon homer over Will Power. So Arian's a Will Power fan. Is that what we're getting at here? Or Diffie's a Will Power fan? Or no, Diffie is a Dixon fan who picks Dixon over Will Power. That's what you're saying. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting.
Ready to get to Iowa, or
Yeah, yeah. Well, everybody's talking about the schedule. We're seeing bring back Pocono in Michigan.
Cleveland?
Cleveland, absolutely, but I don't think it's ever going to happen, unfortunately. I would love Cleveland. I would love Cleveland. If I hit the lottery, I will promote the Cleveland Grand Prix. I'm going to go right to Burke Lakefront, be like, what is it going to take? What is it going to take to have this race? Yeah, so real quick before we go, we'll talk a little IMSA, because speaking of bruh moments, Mazda. Yeah, Mazda. Man, so they had 2 cars, and this is the thing. If there was ever a time for team orders, it was having your 2 cars run in third and fourth, and they raced each other really hard, burned up all their fuel, and both ran out coming through the last corner, lost third place to the JDC number 5 Cadillac, and yeah, that was embarrassing. That was embarrassing. Also, tinfoil hat on. Cadillac Grand Prix, Cadillac won, and Chevy won GTLM. Just saying.
But it's hard to take that tinfoil seriously when the Cadillac that won was Pippo to Ronnie.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I will agree with that. But Corvette won too. After winning the previous race, where you would have thought they would have gotten.
Well, that's because Porsche like wrecked themselves in the pits.
Maybe. But that's not as fun. That's not as fun. Okay, I'm just shitting on BOP. That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to say BOP is rigged.
Well, if that's the case, then I agree 100%.
Well, there you go. Then we agree. Okay, so you clearly want to talk about Iowa. I think the chat probably wants us to talk about Iowa. What else do we need to talk about? I guess we need to talk about McLaren again, because
Pato, poor Pato.
It seemed like he had the better car.
I think he was the guy that was gonna really give Newgarden a run for his money.
Yeah,
I think out of everyone, because I don't think Power finished second, but I don't think he had the car that Newgarden did. I really don't think so.
I think Newgarden's car was bad in traffic.
Yeah.
And that was where O'Ward's car was good. So O'Ward was one of the few people, ironically the other one was Askew, who could actually pass people in traffic, like in the middle of a stint. I don't know what McLaren did to their setups, but they had something that everybody else didn't, and it's kind of a shame that they didn't qualify better, because I have a feeling if you'd had those two McLarens in the first two rows in either of those races, they probably would have run away with it, kind of similar to what Newgarden did in this race, and actually yesterday's race before he kind of got screwed in the pits. Pato, man, didn't he have issues in the pits yesterday too? I'm trying to think.
I can't remember, but
I feel like he did. The chat will tell us, but I feel like it was an. Yeah, it was. Right. It was. It may have been the.
Because remember yesterday,
it may have been the same tire changer. By the way, I thought
it was one thing that was interesting, because I remember yesterday we said Askew finished third, but we thought Pato probably had the better car.
Yep. Well, I don't know about that. I think Pato. So this is kind of my theory. I think Pato's car was better in the daytime, and Askew's car was better the later it got. Because again, we saw in this race, and Askew definitely didn't have the tire advantage he had yesterday, but he still managed to drive up through the field. I think he restarted like 10th or 11th on the final restart and ended up 6th. And everybody's saying, yeah, Pato did have an issue yesterday. So clearly, Pato and Will Power, who Will Power mercifully kind of didn't have any pit issues today, and got second. But I mean, that was just and it's got to be heat, and it's got to be fatigue. That's the only thing I can think of, because like you said yesterday, Kyle, you brought up how every team seemed to have pit issues.
Yeah, seeing a pit stop in IndyCar right now and it be flawless is that is shocking right now.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's a big. I'm trying to think of a team that I've ever seen this whole like stretch where there hasn't been like a pit issue. Maybe like Graham's team. Did they ever have any?
No. What do you?
No, they did.
Road America.
They did it. Road America. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have won that race. Remember?
Yeah, that's right.
They would have inherited the lead, and they would have.
So pretty much every team, because I was thinking Askew's team, but they had an issue yesterday that set him back a little bit. I mean, pretty much everybody we've seen, every single team. Dixon? Did Dixon ever have a pit issue?
I don't think Dixon's had a pit issue.
I feel like it maybe one of the Road America races.
No, I don't think he did. I think Road America race 2, they didn't get anything figured out.
No, he did have a pit issue. He did have a pit issue. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Oh, wasn't it like the right rear or something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a big issue, but it was an
issue though. It was something.
It was lost time. Yeah.
Yeah, Sato.
That sounds right.
So yeah, Will Power was definitely the highlight, that interview. A lot of people were saying maybe he was heat exhausted and maybe he wasn't thinking clearly. I honestly think it was just pissed off Will Power, to be honest with you. He will go off like that every now and then. I feel like there was a couple of times where he's done that. I honestly wish Power would do that more, because it's really entertaining.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining, because a lot of times he's just very reserved, and sometimes he goes crazy and just starts like spitting fire, and it's hilarious. I wish he'd lean into that a little bit more. Like iRacing, that was iRacing Will Power. There goes my camera. That was iRacing chat Will Power. We need iRacing chat Will Power in every interview, because he'd be the most popular driver in the series if that was Will Power. If that was a Will Power you got on every interview, where he's just gonna say like stupid, not even stupid stuff, just like crazy stuff all the time. It's hilarious. Hilarious. Good stuff. Yeah, everybody's talking about how Dixon was out of fuel and Dixon stalled. Dixon stalled in Road America Race 2. So there you go.
All right.
NBC is far from perfect, but they are a hell of a lot better than Fox and RaceCam. Oh, yeah. I thought especially, like, the IndyCar broadcasts have been really good. From a booth perspective especially, I think some of the pit reporting, we need Jan Bikus back. But I thought the booth was actually, like, Hinch and PT really have good chemistry. I thought they bounce off of each other really well. They complement each other really well. Hinch like fills a lot of the dead air that PT usually leaves, and PT is clearly very comfortable with Hinchcliffe, and
Yep.
they both kind of have a really good a good back and forth.
I really liked Hinch in the booth this weekend. I thought he was really good.
Will he would be back from Mid Ohio, right?
Possibly. I don't know what the IMSA clash would be.
There isn't
Not quite sure.
he's not racing in IMSA, is he?
Who? No, I'm
Hinch?
talking about Townsend.
Oh,
Because he wouldn't have been in. Hinch was a pit reporter initially, but because Townsend was
yeah.
in Sebring this weekend,
Well, Hinch would,
that's why Hinch was in the
but
booth.
my point is that Hinch would at least be on pit lane in Mid
Yeah,
Ohio.
he would be in pit lane. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same as he has been the last 2 days though.
Hmm.
Because the last 2 days he was there, like at all times, and he'll just go back into the pit reporting.
Yeah, Liberty Mutual gets the driver of the day for changing their color of their ad. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hinch is best in the booth. Hinch actually knows what he's talking about. Hinch replaced T-Bell. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Taylor says, is anyone having trouble telling Rossi, Harvey, and Pillow apart, or is it just me? No, the commentators are having trouble with it.
I'm having a little bit of trouble with it sometimes.
On TV, it's way worse. In person, Harvey's car is almost like, I don't want to say it's almost purple, but it's way closer to purple on the spectrum, like a bright purple. Rossi's car is very dull pink. Like, it's like if you went into Photoshop and you took the saturation out of it, that's what it would look like. It's very dull pink. And then Pillow's car is almost orange. It's a very bright fluorescent pink. It's really easy to pick that car out when it's in a group with the other ones. I will say the two AutoNation cars are very similar. Thankfully, at most of the remaining races, I think Rossi's in the Napa car, so you'll only have two pink cars to really kind of mess around with. And, I mean, it's tough on TV, again, because the fluorescent car of Pillow kind of gets dulled a little bit. That color kind of turns into a really hot pink, which is the same color that Harvey's car is. So, but in person, it's a lot easier to differentiate all the cars.
In person, Pillow's car looks it looks a bit different.
That's the best looking car. That's the best looking car in the field, as far as I'm concerned. I love that, and I wish it was the only pink car because it would stand out so much more if there weren't two other ones out there. NBC doesn't even go crazy with the full commercials anymore. Most of the commercials are side by side, which I now have no problem with. Yeah, I think the problem is the problem with side by side ads is that they are less money to buy, apparently. So the more side by side ads you're seeing, that means the less interest in ad buying for the race. Perez for the win tomorrow in the rain. Yeah, when is Formula One tomorrow? I need to remember to get up.
I'm not sure.
It's got to be early. Christopher Michael says, how concerned are you about the lack of content on the IndyCar YouTube channel? I mean, I'm concerned about it, but I mean, the boat has sailed this year. The fact that they didn't produce anything during the shutdown was just it's a knife in the back, as far as I'm concerned. They just they put all their eggs in the iRacing basket, which was fine. It was better than nothing, but the fact that they didn't produce any kind of like historical content or like a talk show or Zoom interviews or anything, I don't know. I'm disappointed that they have a 250,000 subscriber YouTube channel that's just sitting there doing nothing. That's a little bit annoying. And yeah, 9 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow for F1. So I'll definitely tune in for that. I'm kind of interested to see how the pink Mercedes, I don't know if you guys saw the Lawrence Biden ice cream meme I posted on the community tab this morning, but I thought it was kind of funny. Photocopier go brrr. Thanks, Dave. They got to address it because I saw like no improvement. Yeah, if anything, they've made the YouTube channel worse because back in the day, freaking IndyCar's YouTube channel was producing more views, not more views, but it was more engaged. There's much more engagement on the IndyCar YouTube channel, partially because they were doing live broadcasts of most of the
Yeah.
sessions. But you had all these F1 fans posting like, "Wow, I can't believe IndyCar is using their YouTube channel. Boy, I wish F1 would do this." And now 3 years later, we're sitting here and IndyCar barely uses their YouTube channel, and F1 is pumping out videos like daily, like 3 or 4 videos daily, which are
Yeah.
getting like 900,000 views.
Yeah.
So the fact that F1 took a page out of IndyCar's book, IndyCar was doing something way better than Formula One, something that could have grown their audience, and they just sat there and did nothing with it. And in fact, made everything worse because they don't even use their YouTube channel. Like that makes me really shake my head, and that's why I was so mad when they put that freaking test session, put it out to 2,000 viewers when they could have easily had 10,000, probably more like 20, 30,000 people tune in February to an IndyCar broadcast like of a test. Like it would have been so easy, especially because all the F1 teams were revealing their cars, and in the algorithm they had like 200,000 people watching like the Ferrari unveil. Man, everybody would have been coming straight to that IndyCar test because they would have looked as soon as that F1 video got done. We're going, oh, IndyCar's live right now. Check that out. But because you unlisted the video, no one could search for it. Stupid. Anyway,
Yep.
Venom129 says Indy should have done what F1 did. F1 replayed a lot of old school races in full on YouTube. Exactly. It's not like they don't have the tape collection. F1 didn't even live stream those races. They literally uploaded them and premiered them. That's the easiest thing in the world to do, especially when you've got the videos just sitting there in IMS Productions. Take the digital file, upload it, write a little description, write some tags, and then profit.
Yep.
And maybe have a little bit of engagement in the chat. Don't turn the chat off. Because it was hilarious. Because F1 was shit posting in their own chat. It was great. But anyway.
I said this the other day. I find it very comical that back in the I Am Indy days in like 08 and 09, they literally had a show with Lauren Bolander, and then now they just don't do anything. When it would be useful, now when
Yeah.
they were kind of ahead of the
Oh, they were way ahead of the curve.
It doesn't make sense.
IndyCar had a YouTube channel that was like producing content way before anybody else. Way before anybody else. And so and I will say that like the Up to Speed show, right? That was the one with Bolander that I think eventually
Yep.
Katie Hargan
Yep.
took over. Like they needed to do a little more than that. I don't think that was very engaging to viewers. They had the
But
right
it was
idea.
something. It was something.
It was something.
Yeah.
It's better than what they're doing now. But I think they needed to. What they really need to do is like get Jan Beekes or Robin Miller or somebody, and really do a show. Like it's going to cost some money, but you're telling me that you can get Pennzoil to sponsor the freaking safety team, or not even the safety team. You can get Pennzoil to pay to put their freaking logo on the tech truck, and you can't convince Pennzoil to sponsor a TV show that you put on the internet. Like even like having them pay for half of the budget. It's like you couldn't convince a sponsor to come on and be like the IndyCar live presented by Pennzoil. Like you really like. I just don't think they're thinking out of the box, honestly.
Yeah. Here's something interesting. I was listening to IndyCar Radio and Sirius XM before the first Iowa race yesterday, and they were playing like 30 minutes prior to the start. They were playing a show called Brick by Brick with Jack Arute and Adrian Allmendinger as the hosts, and they had Pato on. They had Michael Cannon on. That was really cool, and it was very insightful. It was fun to hear what Pato had to say about Road America and what he had to say about Iowa coming up, which was 30 minutes away. It was awesome. And Michael Cannon talking about what it was like to go to Ganassi, all this stuff. And it's like, that show was awesome. But the thing is, I have no idea When I don't remember when it is aired on SiriusXM regularly. And it was awesome.
And you have to, but the
Just
problem is
there's your show right there.
you have to have a Sirius XM
Yeah,
subscription though. That's the problem. I mean, this is the thing. You can't. This is the thing that they don't understand. Especially when they went to NBC Gold. You can't put stuff behind a paywall when you don't have a sizable fan base.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I'm sure they looked at the raw numbers, which to go, oh wow, we're getting 100,000 views on each of our practice broadcasts. We have 100,000 people who will buy NBC Gold. But they probably weren't looking at the demographics and seeing that a lot of those were probably foreign people who can't buy NBC Gold. So then it turns into under 10,000 people, and I think that's I would say that's probably a high estimate of the people who've actually bought NBC Gold.
It's being generous, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, how much money even is that? Like, I guess it's $50,000, but and that's assuming there's 10,000 people who bought it. My wager would probably be it's less than that. I don't know. If you're only making $10,000 and you're bringing all these crew, I mean, you're not paying Lee. I guarantee you're paying Lee Diffie more than $10,000 a year to cover the series. So, and that's one person. I don't know. I don't get it.
Someone said Brick by Brick airs at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday nights on SiriusXM, and it is free on Pandora without a paywall. But there's no promotion.
So,
it's such a good thing. Like,
if it's free, put it on YouTube. Put a couple of cameras in the damn thing and film it. Even if you upload it after it's gone out on Sirius. Why, if it's on Pandora, if that's true, if it's out there for free, why? I mean, it would cost, it wouldn't cost that much money. You could even rent the cameras. And it's not like IMS Production doesn't have cameras. I'm sure they have a couple of cameras. Take a couple cameras, stick one in front of Jackaroot and stick one in front of AJ Allmendinger, and throw some B-roll over it. Put it out there. Even premiere it. Make it like a live stream. I don't know. Do something. Arian says, I don't know why they don't let IndyCar fanboys and girls run their social media accounts. I'm a Power fan and a Newgarden fan. Hashtag Kaylee replaces Diffie. Oh, no. I want to say something.
Give IndyCar social media to the wives. Let them post the dogs.
No, let's not let them post the dogs. That's not what I wanted to say about that. Yeah, I want to say something. It would be smart if they put some people in charge of the social media who at least had a lot of passion for the sport.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that's what's going on right now, which is unfortunate. Sean says, what's this I hear about IndyCar and Peacock? So, Peacock is like a free streaming service from NBC. I don't know how they're making it free, but it is apparently right now. And IndyCar has some stuff on the Peacock channel, or the Peacock streaming service right now, but it's not like live stuff because, of course, everything's locked behind gold. But I would like to see, I would like to see them use Peacock to do live sports because I think it would probably be better. Pandora is owned by SiriusXM. Okay, well, there you go. Everybody's a cousin.
That means that Mr. Meyer is putting effort in.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe just like use that show to shill the IndyCar SiriusXM. Maybe have Meyer sell it to Meyer. Be like, hey, look, let's put this show a couple episodes, see how it does. And if you don't think it's doing enough viewers to justify it as an advertising expense, we'll just move it back over to, or just like stop uploading it to YouTube. But I would say at least try.
I'm not saying I'm not saying brick by like that show, it just made me think like something like that. Like I got so much insight. I got to learn that Pato actually had some beef with Conor after Road America. That was interesting to hear about.
Well, I wish
it was so fun. Like he was. he was pretty like unfiltered about it. It was
Ooh.
awesome, and and then I got to hear nobody hears from Michael Cannon. I mean, and it was awesome to hear the insight about going to Ganassi and how that went about and all those things. Like, man, wouldn't I was just thinking, I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool to like get stuff like this all the time?
Yeah, wouldn't it be
Like,
cool? Yeah.
And if IndyCar themselves did stuff like this,
Well,
like
the
it'd be
problem
awesome.
is you're not getting it to a younger audience. The younger audience would eat up a rivalry between Pato and Conor, but
Yep.
nobody knows about it.
Yep.
Tara says Joe Rogan that bleep up. I agree. AJ Lawton says Kevin Lee does a radio show weekly on ESPN 1070 here in Indiana. Yeah, and that's a fine show. The problem is a new audience. So like Kevin and Kevin show, I mean I listen to it. I think it's fine. The problem is if you're not on a platform, like you have to go. So if you're not in Indiana and you don't have access, or you're not in your car in Indianapolis, you're probably not going to be on 1070 The Fan in at 7 p.m. at night to listen to Kevin and Kevin. My point is that it's in today's world, doing a Facebook Live, a Twitch stream, a YouTube stream, or a YouTube video of that kind of content would reach a completely different audience on YouTube. And that's where they're missing. They're missing the new audience and they're missing the young audience. And, they wonder why only 300,000 people tune into a race on NBCSN. And that's part of the reason, is because they have not maximized the potential of social media. And it's not like they don't have a lot of... I mean, again, I feel like I'm talking about things I talked about in freaking February, but it's not like they don't have a big social media following. I think they almost have 1 million people following them on Facebook. 1 million! Like, how the hell are you not doing content regularly on Facebook? Like, oh my god. Could you imagine if this channel had 1 million subscribers?
Oh.
I mean, it's like, uh, Wind Tunnel was the best. Yeah, I mean, like anything, like, and I again, I know this stuff costs money,
Yeah.
but just
And
something,
you hear the same thing over and over. It's like, oh, they have one social media guy. But it's like you look, the content that
Dude,
the race teams themselves put out is
yeah.
usually
Well,
better than the series.
okay.
And I get that it's a series, not a race team, but like,
Well, let's put
still.
let's put it in an absolutely concrete example here. So, I'm sure you guys have noticed recently a lot of drivers, personalities, media folks have come on this channel. I don't pay them to come on here. They get virtually nothing out of it. Okay? What they do get is they get to come on here. They talk to you guys, the fans. They try to engage with you, and they want to grow the sport. So, like, when Colton Herta comes on here, he is coming on because he wants to, spend time with you guys, give you guys insight that you're not getting elsewhere. He wants to talk directly to you guys. So, I would say you probably wouldn't have to pay a whole lot of guys, especially the ones who live in Indianapolis. You probably just give them a call and go, for example, like, hey, Scott, Scott Dixon, you're having a great season. Could you come down to IMS Productions and film a segment for this YouTube show we're doing? Like, and he could just drive down there. He's like, he lives like 15 miles away from the track or whatever. It wouldn't be as expensive to do as I think some people think it would be. But I don't know, man. I don't know. And it's weird. And the other thing is weird too is the fact that every other series does it. It's not like we're asking for something unique. We're not even asking for it. Just kind of confused as to why they do. I guess IMSA doesn't. But they have like Radio Le Mans, don't they? So like, and they do all this content all the time. So, and also IMSA, they're a little bit better about making their content available to international viewers, which is another problem IndyCar has. Gerald says, are you surprised how uncompetitive Rosenquist was this weekend? Hmm. It's an interesting question. I think mostly they just missed the strategy.
Yeah, I was actually a little surprised. But at the same time, it's a short oval, and I don't think this is really Rosenquist's thing. So
Well,
I
and
was expecting
remember
him to do a bit better, but like I wasn't expecting him to set the world on fire again. So
remember that Dixon was talking about how they really don't have a setup for Iowa,
yeah,
and so Dixon is Dixon, and he's going to be up front, but I don't think the inexperienced drivers, which are Rosenquist and Ericsson, are going to be able to carry the car. When they at a place like Iowa, if they don't have the setup.
speaking of Dixon, what a championship day he had today.
He's I don't
What
know
a
how he's
championship day. And yesterday. What a championship weekend this was. He
I don't
really was not like that good in qualifying and pulled through. Holy crap.
yeah. I don't know how they're gonna beat him for the championship. Arian again says that's where you guys in the racing that's where you guys in the racing YouTube world where people like you can talk about and hype new rivalries. YouTube can make young folks new race fans. Absolutely. You totally get it, Arian. And again, I keep saying this, I'm a great example, and so many of the other YouTubers are a great example of this. I mean, there wouldn't be an auto racing community on YouTube if there wasn't young people interested in this content. And by young people, I don't necessarily mean teens. I mean, the auto racing demographic, a lot of people think of boomers. They think of 45 and up. But I think a lot of my audience is under that. So, and again, if you had a show on YouTube, you'd probably be able to engage more of those people. And, again, it's weird. What do you think the best rivalry in IndyCar is right now? I'll let you handle that, Kyle, and I'll think about that because there's a couple of people that I might be able to say.
I mean, Pato and Daly wasn't like a big thing. I mean, Pato was pretty mad at Conor actually because he was mad Road America Race 2 that Conor passed him and then didn't take off. He specifically said in the interview I was talking about that Conor passed him and then held him up, and that's what killed his tires. And Pato was flat out saying that is something that Pato would never do if he was in Conor's position. He said he would stay out of the way of the leaders and not do that. And Conor's point is Conor said that he actually gained 2 spots by passing Pato. And I believe Conor did take off from Pato.
He did.
But maybe like that lap after he passed him, he held him up. And Pato, I mean, obviously it wasn't. And then he went on to say that because they asked him about the wreck the day before, where people kind of pointed fingers at Pato on that. And Daly was the one that flat out said that it was his fault on Twitter. He flat out said it was his fault. And then Pato went on to say that Conor wrecked himself. He flat out said that Conor wrecked himself, so he didn't understand why he would have any negativity towards Pato. And then apparently Conor Daly got some heat about it during the week. That's why when he qualified on the pole, he said, I guess I didn't hold up Pato there. So obviously there was a little bit of beef there. What do you think, David?
I mean, I'm seeing some people say Dixon versus Power, kind of, but there's not like hate there. I'm trying to think of like where there's like real, I guess. Doesn't Graham hate somebody? I feel like Graham doesn't get along with somebody.
I don't want to say it.
Oh, you know?
I know 2 drivers that don't like each other. I don't want to say it.
What are you gonna? Oh, maybe you can't say it.
It's not really a thing, but it's there. I'm not gonna say it.
Okay. What? Great content. Great content.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna think. I'm gonna think for a little while. I'm gonna try to think about what you thought. I feel like. Well. No, probably not. I was gonna say like Rossi and Hunter Ray, but probably not.
No. That's a teammate, man.
It's a team.
I mean,
yeah, but
rivalry. If you're talking like friendly rivalry, sure. I mean, if we're talking friendly, We're
Graham,
talking friendly. If we were going to talk a friendly rival, I would say Pato and Herta are pretty
Graham,
cool.
Graham and Bourdais, Kimball and Power, the World versus Santino, Graham and Hunter Ray, Alex versus Joseph, Power versus Rahal and Ryan
No,
Hunter Ray.
Power and Ray Hall have mad respect for each other.
Yeah, that's the
They
problem.
they're cool with each other.
Santino and Askew. That was
Kimball,
iRacing. I don't know if that translates to real life.
Kimball, and Power, and remember that happened, but I don't think that's current. But I feel like a couple of people don't like Kimball's driving usually.
Rossi and
Kimball bluffs a
Kanan.
lot.
How? Pagano and Norris. Norris isn't an IndyCar driver, so
Oh, you don't remember Rossi and Kanan at Texas in 17?
I remember Hinch and Kanan. I don't remember
Yeah,
Rossi.
Rossi and Kanan, Texas 2017. Rossi wrecked like pretty early.
Yeah, I know. Was that Kanan's fault?
Kanan's could have been either way you see it. I mean, could have been.
I guess Hinch versus AMSB, which was boy was that.
Also, yeah. Did you see late in the race when Diffie was talking about how Arrow and McLaren they were gonna bring this team to the front and all this stuff?
Yeah,
and I'm just picturing Hinch sitting there listening to him, like, yep.
They're like torturing Hinch because it's like, oh hey, he's like, oh that 5 car is doing such a great job.
Arrow has been a part of this team for a long time, and they have made a statement this season by bringing in these 2 young drivers that they are going to the front. I'm going to see Hinch standing there like,
it's so great they have these young drivers. So much
better. I didn't notice it, but I'm kind of glad. I don't think they've had Hinch comment on the 5 car yet. Like, I don't think Hinch is really.
Oh, he's not gonna be in that pit. Or yeah. No way. That was the first thing when they hired Hinch. I was like, oh yeah, it would be the funniest thing if they put him in the Arrow pit immediately, and he has to like talk to Zach Brown, like, hey buddy, remember me? Why'd you fire me? Especially if like Pato's having a bad day, it's like, hey, I would have done better in that car. Hey, you remember where I finished here last year, Zach? Where's that car running now? Here you go. Should I give the big Diffie impression?
Maybe.
Because it is coming up next. So there's a race coming up next called Mid-Ohio, and a certain driver won there a couple years ago. And this is how it was called in real life.
This is about to be so cringy, guys. Buckle up.
Oh, it's gonna cringe. The cringe factor is going to 20. Graham Rahal wins at Mid-Ohio. There you go. No, I will not.
You're not cringing after that.
I will not do the entire review as Diffie. But there you go. I'm pretty sure that's exactly how we called it too.
Yep.
I want to see Hinch interview Wiki for NBC.
This time it's Graham's turn.
The problem is they're going to have to pull Wiki out of the Arrow pit because otherwise...
Hinch did comment tonight about how he was talking to Wickens about how the team's been doing. So
yeah, I'm sure he was talking to Wickens. They probably went to dinner.
That's as close as he's gotten.
Yeah. Do you think Andretti is stretched too thin? Would it be better to have Herta and Rossi and RHR be the main Andretti team, unload Marco and Veach to somewhere else, maybe Shank? Funny you should mention that. Funny you should mention that. So there was a rumor when they brought Colton and Pato onto the team. Actually, no, it was... Okay, so this is how I remember it. This was like, what was it?
This was last year.
It was last year. So it was after Pato... It was after Pato got
I think I know this
fired. And so Michael wanted Herta on the big team immediately.
Yeah.
And he was afraid that Herta was not going to have the money to go the whole season. And he wanted Herta. So what they were trying to engineer and failed at doing was swapping Veach and Herta, moving Herta into the main Andretti team and giving him financial stability, and kicking Veach to Harding so that Veach brought his sponsorship money to Harding and kept that team going. Obviously, that's not what ended up happening because I think Gainbridge told Michael to go pound sand, which probably well within their rights to do so and contract-wise. But that's how I kind of remember it being a thing anyway.
Yeah, so what that told me immediately was that Michael is interested in Veach for the money, and after this season, this is Veach's contract year, by the way, and so I think this 5 car effort, with the, like, just reading between the lines here and just kind of speculating, I would say that Veach probably moves on next season, finds a team, which I think he's still got that backing with him for the future. We'll see how this season goes, obviously, but I think Veach has the backing for next season. But I do think Veach goes somewhere else next year. As for Marco, Marco has a place on the team until he decides to quit. That is,
The problem is Marco essentially has bought his ride. He
yeah.
owns his own car, and
Andretti Autosport with Brian Andretti, Brian Herta Autosport with Marco Andretti and Kurt
Autosport.
Agajanian. Autosport, yeah.
Autosport.
But
Uh,
yeah, the thing is, I think this 5 car effort, I think they are stretched too thin, and I think the plan was a 5 car team one season, and then they were going to downsize next year with Beach going somewhere else. I think that honestly is the plan.
I don't know if they're stretched too thin. I think the
By the
problem.
way they performed this weekend, they are.
I think everybody's stretched too thin though. I mean, they had what 5 races in 14 days or something like that. They said, like that's an incredible amount of workload. So
It's
I
like
think
most races too. It's not like it. It's easy to see like at least 2 or 3 every weekend to see what like 2 of the Andretti cars in the back, and it's not always Veach and Andretti Marco either. It's not always consistently the same 2 guys. It might be Marco, right? But besides the point, Veach has his times of running in the top 5 and 10, and usually by the end of the race, if he doesn't have a clutch failure, he'll be 15th to 13th. He's not that far behind, but he obviously doesn't have what Rossi does. And Hunter Ray has more off weekends, has probably maybe as many, maybe
the problem
not as
is
many,
the
but
problem is Ryan Hunter-Reay can turn it on. He can win, and he's already proven himself. He's got an Indy 500
yeah.
win. He's got a championship. That will keep you in the sport forever.
Well, yeah, but but just with Andretti being stretched too thin, I think it's just because that's what I'm saying is with Hunter Ray, it's not like I don't see out of Hunter Ray, Rossi, and Herta, I don't see their driving being an issue, and you consistently see them having bad cars.
So
Is what I'm
GN
seeing.
GN has a random super chat, but I think it's kind of interesting because I can speak to this a little bit. I can't speak to it as well as probably someone who's a little bit older than I am. But he says, "What were attitudes towards deaths of racing drivers before February of 2001? It seems like no one wished for anyone to die, but it was considered part of the deal. You had to move on." Well, I think it's still. I think that's going to sound insensitive, but I think it's still really that way. I mean, it is part of the sport. I mean, it's a very dangerous sport. But from what I remember growing up, because obviously before you're talking about Dale's death, obviously, and that was a big one. But I mean, I remember a few other ones growing up. I remember Scott Brayton getting killed at Indy in '96, and I remember Greg Moore when he got killed. I remember Alex Zanardi losing his legs. And then obviously as you move further down the timeline, obviously you start to remember like Kenny Breck's crash, and then you go to Dan Weldon, and obviously I was at Pocono 2015 for Justin Wilson. But I mean, as a kid, I mean, I guess it was just something you accepted. I mean, I don't know if it's ever been like, I mean, unless I think that the people who are really shocked, like to the core about death and auto racing are like the new fans. And by new fans, I don't mean like younger fans or even fans who have become fans like within recent years. But I think like some of the older fans who have like just started watching like in their 30s, and have watched other sports like football, like it's a totally foreign concept. I mean, you've never, like, it's very rare for a football player to die on the field or even have a career-ending injury, and that happens a lot more in auto racing. Now, thankfully, more recently there have been safety advances, and there will always continue to be safety advances in racing, and it's going to get less and less. There's going to be less and less potential of it happening, but I think it's always going to be there. So, I mean, ultimately, I think for everybody involved, especially with this, what a dangerous sport it is, um, I think you should move on, but not forget, obviously. But I think it is important to uh, keep going after a tragedy happens, and just make sure you learn from it. Develop any safety advances that you can from what you've learned from what unfortunately took a life. Because you know this is a little bit different from what you kind of were asking, but auto racing's always been a proving ground for technology in the automobile industry, and so that also transfers to safety. So if somebody gets hurt in an auto race, there's a potential that the things that you learn from where, how, and why that injury was created will help road safety or automobiles on the road get safer. So I think auto racing is always going to be a proving ground in some respects, and that means it's always going to be pushing limits, and that means it's always going to be dangerous to a certain extent. So that's kind of my attitude, probably because I'm a boomer. But I'd be interested to hear. I think Kyle was born like post 2000, so I mean, what is a
Yeah,
post?
2001.
Yeah, what is a
Turned 19 today or
yeah, that's
yesterday.
true.
It's after
Yesterday.
midnight.
It is after midnight. So say happy belated birthday to Kyle in the chat. Spam that. You should have said that yesterday, so we could have spammed you happy birthday like at the immediate moment. But I mean, what do you think about it, Kyle?
Uh, so I was born in 2001 in yeah, obviously July. So
After Dale,
I
AD.
oh boy, but my first experience was Dan Weldon in 2011. I think the thing, um, because you watch Brock Beard's documentary. Was it what was the three
Oh,
before
three.
February
I need to
for
see that. I
it
need
was
to see
so
that.
good. Three before February about Adam Petty, um, and
Blaze
everything that
Alexander,
happened, Blazog, everything that happened in
Tony
2000,
Tony
right?
Roper wasn't the other one. I'm trying to think.
It, Kenny Irwin,
Kenny Irwin, yeah. Tony Roper
Kenny
was in
Irwin.
2001.
But yeah, you watch that, and that was obviously before my time on this earth, and it was after Dale's death. So in my entire life, I've never witnessed a death in NASCAR, and I wasn't a big IndyCar fan in '06. I mean, I really wasn't paying attention because I became an IndyCar fan when they came to Mid Ohio, and they took a couple years off in the mid 2000s, and my first IndyCar race was '07. So I was really a big IndyCar fan from '07 on, but I was a bigger NASCAR fan. But I was really an IndyCar fan from '07 on only. So 2011, to me, I'd not seen a death in NASCAR or IndyCar because I wasn't around in '06. So that was really my first real experience, right? And I would have been 11. I would have been 11. Yeah, in October I would have been 11. So going 11 years and being a racing fan my entire childhood, that really shocked me to my core. It I did not expect it, and it was the first time I realized that it was possible. But obviously, the question, I mean, David, you were around in 2000, so to you, you've experienced multiple times. But for a generation like me, it's something that it's become so rare. You know, you it's so
Well, yeah,
rare that it really just
that's a good point because like I do remember Adam Petty, but I don't remember ones like Tony Roper. I certainly don't remember Tony Roper, but I do remember Kenny Irwin and then Adam Petty, and it wasn't super shocking, but it also was like it was something you just go, oh wow, that sucks.
how
Um,
old were you in
I
2000?
would have been 6, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So,
Because the thing was, I was 11, so I was old
yeah,
enough to like really like understand the moment and really understand what was happening. I mean, kind of, it was 11, but like
yeah.
still, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just for my generation, it's just like it's become so rare that it's that's why it's become it's so just absolutely it's not a normal thing, I guess, anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean, wow, yeah. I guess the thing for me is it did get more shocking as I get older. And because the thing I guess is, without getting too graphic here, obviously, you kind of realize like what happens in a crash that kills somebody, uh, and and that was really what like scared me. Um,
Hmm.
so like Tony Renna's crash, for example. Um, when you heard some of the things, and even back then when you heard some of the things, obviously a little bit more information has come out about that now. But when you heard some of the things that sounded like happened in that crash, you go, "Whoa, holy shit!" Like, so it, and like as a few other people are mentioning Paul Dana. I mean, I didn't have to go and list every death that's happened in my lifetime,
Yeah.
but I mean, I do remember. I remember how much Paul Dana's death shocked me. I remember hearing like because we had the TV on, the race was coming on like later in the day, and I thought I heard something on Sports Center that a driver was dead, and I was like, what? But I missed it. I missed the report on Sports Center. I ran in the room and it was just ended, and I was freaking out because I didn't know who had gotten killed. But I was like, oh shit, somebody
This is
got killed.
before like this is before you could go on your smartphone and go on Twitter and just like search it up
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff like that
and
too.
that was before I knew how to like go to track forum or anything. It wasn't even like I didn't even know how to go to web forums or speedtv.com or whatever. Um, yeah, it was. Yeah, so I guess like I wasn't like totally desensitized to it, obviously, but at the same time, like it did happen a lot more in my younger days, I suppose, and of course a lot of other people. Uh, it happened a lot, in like the '60s and stuff. But yeah, damn, that's a downer. uh,
It's an interesting topic,
it,
act, but you know,
it is an interesting topic, but I guess
just
it's
because of
one
the
that we don't
differences.
we don't. It's not a fun one to talk about though.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a super chat that will get us off the subject, hopefully. Jeremy McDude says, greetings from Cornland. Race 1 was better than Race 2, IMO. So I'm guessing Jeremy was at the race. And yeah, I would agree. I think Race 1 was more entertaining. Race 2 was not bad, though. Race
Yeah.
2, the problem is Race 2 wasn't nonstop action. And from the perspective of lead changes, it wasn't like it was yesterday. So, to me, yeah, I think race 1 was probably more entertaining. But then again, Joseph kind of dominated the first half of both races.
Yep.
So,
But I mean, good on Joseph. He dominated the first quarter of Road America and should have won that until he stalled, and should have probably won yesterday had he not been caught out by the yellow on the bad strategy. So he finally got him one. It would. I couldn't imagine after last night how frustrated Newgarden had to be after losing out of Road America and now this.
well, I guess we can talk about the
Jeez.
points a little bit, which are there's 3 drivers who have completed all the laps this season: Dixon, Newgarden, Pagenaud. They're the first 3 in points. They're the 3 that you would expect to kind of be up there. God, I'm trying to. I don't see anybody knocking them off either, and honestly, I don't see them. I don't see Newgarden and Pagenaud making up a huge amount of points on Dixon. The only way I could see that happening is if Dixon has a bad Indy. So if Dixon gets past the 500, gaining points on Pagenaud and Newgarden, championship's over.
I mean,
If
unless Pato, Power, Rahal, and Herta could just go X Games mode the rest of the season, and then I just don't see it either.
that's true,
I mean,
that's
because
true.
Pato, the way Pato's looked, the last, well, now it'd be 3 races because Road America Race 1, I don't remember really him being a talking point. But after Road America Race 2 and how fast he showed he was last night and tonight, if he can continue coming race to race with pace like this, then holy crap, he could be a real talk in 4th right now.
Yeah.
But
Well,
what the big key is going to be Dixon screwing up. And like I said, they did not really have a setup for Iowa. They, did not qualify well at all. And yet he still ends up finishing 2nd and 5th. So that's why you're probably not going to be able to beat Scott Dixon.
O'Ward is looking strong. I agree with what Brand is saying. O'Ward, the I mean, it's not even a lot of his fault. It's really been pit strategy and bad
Yeah.
stops, which has prevented him from winning the last 2 or 3 races. So O'Ward could be right there in the championship contention. I thought Ray Hall had a great recovery from race 1 to race 2. We talked about that yesterday. So if you were
Yep.
watching the stream last night,
He
you
was
got a little
actually
bit of
last.
insight.
In first practice start, he was last, and he qualified terrible. And so yesterday and today, he's had to make his way through the field in strategy alone. And then overall today, I mean, Ray Hall had the killer strategy that got him, and lucky on a yellow, I guess. But I mean, just Ray Hall and Pagano today, excuse me, did the same thing from the back to the front on strategy. I have no idea how Pagano did it, because yesterday what Pagano did is Pagano early on literally just carved his way through the field and made up a ton of spots early. Today he didn't really do that. Today he kind of hung in the back, and I was kind of worried about him early. And then all of a sudden, a yellow falls his way, and the strategy keeps going on, and Pagano's boom right there in fifth. It's like, what the heck? And even when he ended up fifth, he didn't really carve his way through the field. I mean, he wasn't quick, but he was there.
Couple of things in the chat that I want to address. Jacob says Iowa is Dixon's worst track. That's true. However, I was thinking about it, and he hasn't won at Road America either, right? Or not Road America. Sorry.
No,
Laguna.
Gateway.
Laguna.
I said Gateway.
I know. Gateway, Laguna Seca, and Iowa. And I think there was
Yep.
another one, right? Didn't we find there was another one?
Mm,
Because I feel like we didn't mention Laguna Seca yesterday.
yeah, we didn't.
So that
Forgot
was
about that
another
one.
one that I kind of thought. Wasn't Colton second in the points before the Iowa doubleheader? Yes. Colton had a bad weekend. And it definitely looked like the crash yesterday hurt his car quite a bit.
So one thing before Herta, this one it just popped in my brain. Has Dixon won at St. Pete? That's one we might have forgot.
No.
Yeah, St. Pete too, right?
Yeah, no, because that's the race that everybody talks about him always having a bad day at St. Pete.
Yeah. Well, that's the championship race.
No, I feel like didn't he win last year?
Did he win last? I don't feel like that's right, but then again, Dixon wins so many times that it's like
I can't remember.
2019. I feel
No,
like it was New
Joseph.
Garden.
It was Joseph.
Yeah.
I think Dixon was like second or something.
Yeah.
I feel like Dixon was
it's
close.
Most tracks he always does well.
Yeah.
And Barber. He never won a Barber. But anyways, Herta.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about Herta.
Okay.
Yesterday he was doing very well.
Chungus.
He got screwed on strategy a bit. He ended up falling to the back after a strategy call before the Air Chungus. But until the Air Chungus happened, I thought, because early on yesterday, his weekend, I feel so bad for Herta because this weekend really just went to shambles.
Might have ruined his championship.
Because early in the race yesterday, he was like fourth or fifth, and Dixon was in the back. And it just typical Scott Dixon, the championship, it was like, wow, Herta's actually going to make a big gain this race on Dixon if things keep going this way. And then bad strategy. I don't even think Herta knows how they fell back yesterday in the strategy. He even said on the radio, how the heck did we fall? But anyways, he ends up in the back, and then Air Chungus happens, and then today he was fifth, and it was like, okay, if things go right, then he should be, he should be able to make some stuff back today. But then the car just looked evil.
I think he hurt the car. I don't think they got.
I think the car was hurt. It just looked evil on him. It was not handling right. He fell to the back almost immediately, and just had a awful day today. And it was just a shame to see. I feel so bad for Colton after this weekend. Just because of the fact early on yesterday, Dixon was in the back, he was in the front, set I believe second in points, right?
Yep.
Just gonna make a huge gain in the standings.
Colton even said in the interview that after he crashed was that he was on Simon's strategy, so he would have been up at the front anyway at the end of the race. Jeremy says, was IndyCar running a new package The rear wing looked like the upper main plane was removed on the short tracks. Yeah. So on the short ovals, in fact, this has been it's been this way for quite a while. I think since the aero kits, like the original
Yep.
manufacturer aero kits, is they've been allowed to do what they used to do in the kart days, which is remove one of the not the main planes, but kind of the extra little elements on the wing. So ordinarily on the road courses, they have two
Hmm.
elements. They have a bottom one and a top one, which they can adjust. On the ovals, or the short ovals, they're allowed to take that second element off to reduce drag. And I think the cars look damn sexy with the little tiny.
Even in
Uh,
the manufacturer kit areas, they like remember the Hondas were running the
oh,
Speedway bumpers on
yeah,
like tracks like Road America
like
and the short
Phoenix.
ovals. It was fun because I went to Phoenix in 16, and that was the first time I actually saw one of the bumpers. I was like, "That's a Speedway bumper," and I looked at them on track. I'm like, "Oh my god,
Yep.
they're running Speedway kits."
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't
Uh,
that cool? Wasn't that cool back when we could tell apart aero and manufacturers?
I liked the aero kits, but I understand why they got rid of them. The thing I wish that they would have done was why didn't they just simplify them and keep the development going? Like that was the big
Yeah,
problem was there were just way too many parts on them, way too much cost because there's way too many parts that the teams had to buy. If you just like okay, Honda gets to develop the side pod and they get to use like one piece of carbon fiber. You can shape it however you like, but it's one piece. You don't get to put a bunch of wings on top of it that you can take
yeah,
off, put on, because that's I think where the expense came from. Having to develop all those parts, having to put them on or take them off the car, having the teams buy them. If they had just said we're gonna make the car look like the Universal Aero Kit, or at least keep the boxes similar to that, but you go ham, develop all you want. That's how I would have done the Aero Kits, because then
crazy.
you would have different cars and you would have different looking cars instead of ugly looking cars that were expensive and different.
If if anyone's ever bored, it's crazy to see what IndyCar went from when they were announcing the new aero kits and what was going to happen in the future back in like 2010 to 12. If anyone's ever bored, go on YouTube and research that stuff. It is entertaining. That's the stuff that entertains me.
Yeah, I actually covered that stuff on my YouTube channel way
Yeah.
back in the day. I remember, if I ran my YouTube channel like I did now, I would be bitching at them like to high heaven, like let Swift and let Lola come on, let's have like 3 different chassis manufacturers, let's make this like card again. I would have been making videos like every week doing that, and they would have hated me for doing it. Then as soon as they would have announced Dallara as the spec manufacturer, I would have been like, what the hell is this all about? Dallara again? Yeah. Um,
Did
what was it?
anyone else remember the "Don't Get Rid of the Aero Kits" video?
I still agree with that. On principle, I agree with that because what I said was make the cars more simple. You can keep the aero kits, you can keep the development going, but you can reduce the costs without having to make it spec.
I
But
need to because I've been wanting to make a video about about this whole situation because remember IndyCar, the manufacturer aero kits were supposed to happen
when the new
like
car came out,
yeah, when the new car came out, and then it's like, oh, that didn't happen. 2012, 13, it's not happening yet. 14, it's not happening yet. 15, it's happening. Aero kits don't show up until like 2 weeks before the first race at St. Petersburg. Actually,
they
remember
weren't even
there was
supposed
a
to run
race.
them. Yeah,
There was a race in Brasilia that was supposed to happen, and that the first race of 2015 was not going to happen with aero kits,
yeah.
and they literally didn't get the parts and pieces for them until like a couple weeks before the St. Pete.
Francisco
And
Draconi went to the first test of the year and ran at DW12 because he didn't
yeah,
have
he
enough
did.
parts.
See, I need to make a video about it and just talk about it. It's
2015
gonna be awesome.
IndyCar was a freaking hot mess. Hot mess.
Yep.
They, boy, phew. That was probably when the Holmans decided to sell it. They're like, we're going to get to the 2016 running, and we're going to be done with this. Honestly, I think that's kind of what happened, honestly.
It's so crazy. And then they finally in 15 they had their plan. Their plan
You're going to break the
happened.
track
They
record.
finally got their manufacturer kits. Their plan happened, and then 2015 month of May happened. That was a shit show. Well, not it was a good race. But remember 2015 month of May with all
The
the flips
qualifying.
and the
Well,
and the qualifying drama.
Well, see, they can't see that. It's fine when Penske cars are flipping over. It's fine when Joseph flips over. As soon as Ed flips over, shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it
and
down.
then and then that weekend, remember they screwed the Hondas. All the
Oh,
Honda
yeah.
teams were pissed off
because the
Not to
Hondas
mention
were like,
in the
our cars aren't
manufacturer.
flipping over.
Yeah, and not to mention in the manufacturer era, you had all the sandbagging disputes, and that was entertaining. And then finally, yeah, so IndyCar has their plan done. Then we get to the end of 2017. They're like, oh, actually, this plan that we had, it was too expensive. We're gonna
No, no,
go
no.
back
It
on
was
it,
it
which
was like
made
the middle.
sense.
It was the middle of 16 when they stopped. They first stopped development on the aero kits. It was right before Indy 2016. They froze development and said we're gonna freeze development till the end of 17, and then we're gonna bring a new car in, or new not a new car. See, I was bitching about how people were calling it a new car. We're gonna put a new body kit on it. It's gonna be spec. It's at least gonna look good, which it looked fine. I think it looks fine, even with
Yeah,
the screen on it. But
it looks great to me. But it's just fascinating to me how their plan from like just IndyCar from 2010 to now, how everything evolved and happened. It's just I
and how
I'm interested.
most everything was a disaster.
Yep.
Like
And
nothing
here,
went well.
ask the chat. I'm gonna ask the chat now. What is your interest? If I did like, because one of my next videos I want to do just for fun, like the historical stuff I do. I want to talk about that plan, the 2010 to now. Like what has happened? What's the interest in that chat?
Tara says.
I think it's entertaining.
Should Derek Walker have been kept on? Yes, he was the fall guy for bad decisions that he had nothing to do with. GN says 2015 was a hot mess for all U.S. motorsports. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, oh, IMSA was pretty good, but no, it wasn't. So, well, was that the first year? No, it wasn't. I was gonna say, was that the first year of the Ford
Nope.
GT? But it wasn't. So yeah, IMSA sucked. IndyCar was a hot mess. NASCAR had like one of its worst seasons ever. Um, yeah, and it seems like the chat's interested in your video topic. So there you go.
So I was up late at one night randomly, just like watching all of the old like when they were like talking about the Lola and the Bat and the Delta Wing, and I think it'd be interesting to cover that stuff because I feel like IndyCar has gained a lot of new fans, especially around like 2016 and 17 times, and I don't feel like there's enough people that remember that.
Mm-mm.
I feel like
No.
revisiting that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Not,
Well,
yeah,
I don't know if it'd be awesome. It would be a
yeah.
good
I
video.
don't think awesome was the right
It'd
word
be an
there.
interesting
Yeah.
video. uh, so let's go. Let's go to like unless we get a bunch of chat going here. Let's go to 12:45.
All
Um,
right.
and if not, we go to one. But unless this chat really pops off here in the next few minutes. So chat, I'm gonna leave it up to you for the next like 4 minutes and possibly more, depending on if we go longer. Gotta love the artificial speed boost for 8,500 qualifying. Thank you, Arian. That is something that I would like to address. I will actually talk about that real quick.
Aren't they raising it this year?
Yeah. So
Nice.
I am a big proponent of racing what you qualify, and the fact that they up the qualifying boost to get 230 mile an hour speeds when they're just like 230.7. It's not even close to a track record. It's not even close to 235. Why? Especially if, without the qualifying boost, a lot of times they're around 228, 229. I would rather they just trim the cars out and run with whatever. I mean, either run the higher boost the entire month or don't do the higher boost at all. It's just a gimmick to run with the higher boost because, and it would be cool too, is if you had one standard boost throughout the month, that teams could do qualifying sims, not the entire month, the entire week, sorry. Throughout the entire week, a team could work on qualifying setup on Monday, set huge times, and then just be nowhere the rest of the week. Go, oh, well, I guess they suck, and then they go out there and put it on pole. I don't know. I think it'd be more interesting. I'm a boomer, though. I think that they should do 2 weekends of qualifying still, so, yeah. I wish Lola would have won the contract for the 2012 cars. I do too, because guess what? They would have been able to. Lola's concept was that the tub would have transferred to Indy Lights, so teams that bought an Indy Lights tub would not only be able to have a chassis ready to go for lights, but they could buy parts, an upgrade kit or whatever, and have that car ready to go and run the Indianapolis 500 or the IndyCar series.
What I heard, like from Roger Penske on the Marshall Pro podcast, I heard Rogers say specifically. Remember your idea about using like old IndyCar chassis?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Rogers said specifically his idea would be basically using a similar like using old IndyCar chassis that the teams aren't using anymore, running those in lights with a different engine with lower horsepower, and I believe different wings, but maybe the same wings. So maybe we'd see the same cars with lower horsepower being Indy lights.
Well, see, I said in that video, and that scares me because that's almost verbatim what I said. Um, Roger, super chat like $10,000. Roger, come on, buy me off. I'd be great. But the yeah, I mean I agree with Roger completely, especially if they're introducing a new chassis for IndyCar coming soon. You're gonna have a bunch of equipment that will no longer be usable. So why not have it become the Indy Lights chassis? Because then the teams that are already existing in IndyCar would have extra chassis. They could either sell them or create an Indy Lights team. Jeremy McDude with the super chat says IndyCar could look at P2 and see how they work with the separate chassis makes. I always thought the G-Force was interesting. So the one thing, okay, so there's a couple of problems with P2, using P2 as a base. So the first one is the BOP. I would prefer that IndyCar does not become a BOP category. I would prefer it to be as merit-based as possible in terms of performance. The other problem with P2 is that the rules are so restrictive that a chassis manufacturer that falls behind has one joker, quote-unquote, set of upgrades, meaning they can develop their car once, I think, per certain set of time, which is a pretty long period of time, by the way. And if they don't get those joker upgrades to be competitive, essentially P2 has turned into a one-make class. Orica pretty much dominates P2. Virtually every car at the 24 Hours of Le Mans this year in the LMP2 division is going to be an Orica. I think there's like one Riley entered, which I think is already withdrawn, the Rick Ware racing car, and then I think there's like one Dallara and maybe a couple of Ligers, but for the majority of like a 20-car field, it's pretty much all Orica. And so from that perspective, like P2 is kind of halfway to what IndyCar would need. IndyCar would need a competitive market, or at least they need a market where a chassis manufacturer would not be allowed to fall too far behind the other ones. So because ultimately, if you do chassis competition, you have to find a way to make sure that you don't just end up with a spec car that's more expensive, because that's what happened the last time with the Dallara IR05. It was better than everything else, but the problem was when the other chassis left or didn't have any more customers, the prices, the spare parts stayed the same price or even went up in price. So that's the thing you want to try to avoid with chassis competition. Can casual fans tell apart Xfinity and Cup cars? That's a good question.
I believe so.
Probably, but probably
Xfinity
more.
Cars are boxier. They don't have stuff on the sides.
Well, it's still, but the problem is casual fans. You don't realize.
The casual fan has a wide spectrum of knowledge.
The spoiler might be the thing that would tip them off.
Yeah.
The 2012 Lola looked like the 2001 Champ Car 2.0. Yeah, that's why I like the Lola. It was a beautiful looking car. It's a beautiful looking car, and it probably would have saved Lola if they'd had 33 plus cars that they had to build in 2012. They probably wouldn't have gone bankrupt. Oh well. Yep. Chassis competition may decrease safety. That is a misnomer. Chassis competition would not decrease safety as long as you write rules that are very strict about safety. If you have the same crash test for everybody and everybody crashes my point is a Dallara is going to crash test the same way as let's say, for example, an Orica built IndyCar. They're going to have to pass the same crash test. If they don't pass the crash test, don't let them in. If they do pass the crash test, why not? I don't see a problem with it. So and this weird misnomer that a chassis company is going to cut corners to go faster in terms of safety, maybe, but ultimately you have to write rules to make sure that the safety guidelines are adhered to. GN says, do you wish NASCAR would still race an exhibition in Japan, and IndyCar an exhibition in Australia? I wish IndyCar would race a points race in Australia, particularly at Surfers Paradise. But NASCAR in Japan, that's interesting. I think Toyota would like that very much, but and I think it would be cool. The problem is that, especially in today's world where we don't know how travel is going to be, I'd like to see it, but I don't think it's very likely. Even IndyCar in Australia or Japan for that matter. I'd love to see it though. I hope the GTD Lexus cars switch to Supra. That would be awesome. That's never going to happen though. They need to axe the GTLM class and make GTD and GT going to Le Mans class.
Oh boy, you're gonna get David started on this.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's pretty much inevitable at this point that GT3 is going to be the GT class. It's probably going to be split into GT Pro and GT Am, but GT3 cars, they don't do a whole lot for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. See, I was waiting for the the GTD cars are boring.
I mean, they're not super boring. The problem is that they're the lowest class, and I want to see like the factory teams, the factory drivers, pro drivers. I want to see development. I want to see the cars change over the course of the season. GT3 is just so homogenized. That's my big problem with it. And I get that's why it's popular, but it's kind of go-karts for tech billionaires.
Sure.
And it's just meh. David, are you and Kyle coming to Indy in August as of now? Yes.
Funny you should say that.
Yes. Yes.
We're actually doing a thing in
Oh, you're talking about
days.
Battle at the Brickyard. Well, no.
Well, I'm talking about all of it.
Battle at the Brickyard, yes, that's
a
thing happening. But yeah, we'll be at Indy like a week from now, 2 weeks from now.
12 days.
12 days. 12 days. Aye. Yeah, so the plan is to be at Indianapolis for the 500, do things as normally as possible. Again, that's going to come down to media credential availability. The last thing I heard from IMS is that they don't know. They don't have a plan in place. And then from that perspective, it'd be covering it as a fan, if they let fans in, which I did last year. It's not a big deal. Unfortunately, I didn't buy a bronze badge, but I don't think many fans are going to be getting in the garages anyway. And the worst case scenario is if they don't let fans in until race day, is going to be sit in a hotel room, watch NBC Gold, and then go to the racetrack and stand outside of Gate 1 and give you guys my report on the day. That would suck to do, but I'm willing to do it for you guys. Fred Nando update. He's apparently coming to race in the Indy 500. I would imagine he's coming. He probably is going to be flying to the States within a week or two, because he's going to have to do I believe he's still going to have to do a 2-week quarantine like in Mexico City or something like that before he's allowed in the country. But I would imagine he's coming pretty soon. And if you look at how fast McLaren has been on the ovals, I think Fred's got a good chance this year, folks. NASCAR needs 8 road races minimum. I don't know how you're gonna kick the ovals off of the schedule to do that, but I like what you're thinking. I would at least like to see Road America. I think Road America needs a big event, another big event with IndyCar. And I think a NASCAR Cup race, like, you'd have people climbing the trees to get in there for that.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the pink Mercedes locking out the second row? I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think they're going to win unless the Mercedes run into each other, but it would be cool to see them get a good run. Practice and quals will be open if they run the race, says Ben. Okay, that's good. Thoughts on maybe having 2 engine formulas for IndyCar like V8s and the Offies? You mean like opening up the regulations? I think absolutely. I'd love to see more engine variety in IndyCar. I think just having V6s is boring, but yeah, I'd love to see a little more variety, especially V8s. We need some V8s back. Miss high revving V8s. I really do. Racing has too many low revving V6s right now. It's boring. I want my V8s. Thank you. You know what engine they just need to do is inline fours. Inline four engines sound great. So it's like half a V8. Just rev the shit out of it. It'll sound amazing. Stroll P3, mark my word. All right, Guillermo Fernandez, you better be right. I'll put some money on it. No, I'm just kidding. Should they celebrate being a copy of Merc, though, David? I'm a proponent of working smarter, not harder. So the fact that they ultimately the results are showing the results. They're third and fourth on the grid. They might be higher tomorrow, depending on if Mercedes has any reliability or driver issues. There you go. Does that cause weight, BOP, and crap like that? Probably not. You might have to balance it with boost, but I don't know. Would Ferrari like that? Ferrari to Indy? Ferrari apparently is the closest thing to a third manufacturer we're ever going to get. But we'll just have to see with that. They talk about it enough. Okay, Kyle. It's almost 1 a.m. Any final thoughts?
Today was this weekend was an awesome weekend of racing.
Mid-Ohio is having fans, Zachary.
And there's one last super chat before I finish.
Arian says...
Oh, 2 more.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I just see the Arian one, so I'm going to go with that one first. Nice, some old school RPM tonight, 2001 to 2002 reporting. What, just bitching about not having V8s? Okay. Jeremy says, would DPI also work if the idea of a separate chassis manufacturer, maybe less of a chassis, more of a body kit? You can also get chassis manufacturers in. So... Oh, you're saying so do it like DPI. The problem is if you do it like DPI, you still got the same problem where it's a BOP category. I do not want to see IndyCar become a BOP category. I would almost rather have it be spec than BOP. Because BOP, suddenly you're having officials determine who wins the Indy 500. And to me, no thank you. I want to see the Indy 500 winner be on merit. I don't want to see a BOP table determine who wins the Indy 500. No, thank you, sir. Okay, finish up, Kyle. Your thoughts.
All right, so this weekend was awesome. Interesting points battle we're having here this season. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. Now the teams get a well-deserved break for 2-3 weeks now until Mid-Ohio. Until then, David and I were going to be at the Battle of the Brickyard in 12 days doing that, doing some karting, and hopefully kicking some ass, hopefully this year. After that, we will be attempting to be at Mid-Ohio. I say attempt as in it's 2020, and you always have to, put it out there.
We got through 2 races at Road America without anything getting canceled.
We just got to put it out there that it's like, hey, we were at St. Pete. We know how that goes. Let's not say for sure on anything. So we're going to be at Mid-Ohio for that. And then I keep wanting to say month of May, but the month of August begins. And like David said, regardless, we will be at Indy, whether we have to watch NBC Gold in the hotel or if we're going to be there. So yeah, we'll be doing lots and lots of stuff over the next month and a half. And it's just great, to be in a position to be able to do this, And
I'm gonna sleep well this December. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, it's just
I'm gonna
amazing.
Fall into a coma. I'm gonna hibernate after the 12 hours of Sebring this year.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, go subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Race Nation TV. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Race Nation TV, everything. And I'll be providing content alongside David. And it's going to be a fun couple of weeks, or a couple of months, I should say. It's going to be chaotic.
I thought it was a good weekend. Like you said, it's gonna be freaking yeah. Pump up the likes, says HK Productions. I agree with you. Yeah, it's gonna be boy, it's gonna be a long, long couple of months. But excited.
Hey, we're not complaining though.
Not complaining.
It's gonna be awesome.
I'm just saying it's gonna be long. I'm acting, or I'm just going. It's gonna be long because it's gonna be tiring, but it's gonna be a good kind of tired. It's not gonna be the bored tired that was the lockdown. It's gonna be next 2 months are gonna be crazy. I did like this weekend. I enjoyed the doubleheader at Iowa. I would like to see it continue. We'll have to see what happens, but yeah, it's gonna be a crazy couple of weeks. Gonna be a crazy couple of months. It's gonna be a crazy year to finish out. Hopefully, everything goes without too much more incident. It does, here's the thing. It does start to feel like things are getting back to normal, slowly but surely. I've noticed this at least in the last couple of weeks. It seems like, and it's not just because I went to Road America, at least from my observation, it seems like the country and the world is beginning to move on, not necessarily move totally on from the pandemic, but it does feel like things are starting to become a lot more like they used to be, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be pretty much out of this from that perspective. Again, I'm probably being optimistic, but and optimism has no place in 2020. But yeah, try to give you some positive things. Yeah, damn. So we'll see you guys in the next video. I think I may do a review of the entire weekend. Oh, there goes the camera. It always goes out right before I finish. May do a video on the entire weekend. I may also do like a This Week in Racing catch up, or I may do both. Because there's been a few things to come out, like the IROC series is essentially getting revived. That's kind of interesting, so I should probably talk about that a little bit. Alonso's going to Renault. I feel like I haven't talked about that at all. Probably should talk about that. Yeah, we do need to do some iRacing. Don't know what I want to do, so yeah, send me some stuff either in the chat or in the comments of this video, or on Twitter about what we should do for iRacing, because I do want to get back into that a little bit. I did see
Road to Indy.
Road to Indy. Probably something to do with Road to Indy. But I did see that iRacing's putting a P2 car, a modern P2 car in the game.
Dallara.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting.
That means the Rolex 24 next year is going to be awesome on iRacing. I'm excited to do that. The Dallara P2. Oh boy, I'm excited. Finally, we get a relevant car at the Rolex 24 in iRacing.
Except for it's like a irrelevant car because it's
kind of relevant.
It's not NIMSA except for in
but
DPI.
Okay, it's not. So the Rolex 24 is not going to be the Corvette Daytona Proto Turtles. That's basically my point. That's not going to be the main class in iRacing, and that gets me excited.
Yeah, and you can paint it to look like the Cadillac very, very easily.
Sure.
Just the headlights will look different, pretty much. But yeah, okay, guys. That's it for the stream. Thank you guys all for coming out. Thank you for the super chats, and thanks for supporting the content. Hopefully we'll have again some more videos within the next few days, and then I'll be going to Indy for the Battle at the Brickyard, and try to keep that content rolling as we continue on. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.